నమస్కారం. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం విద్యార్థులకు స్వాగతం. ఈ ప్రసారంలో
the printing technology, which was invented in the 15th century by Gutenberg, it has revolutionized the print world, and since then large volumes of books were being produced and distributed. Some competitive printers, they resorted to unfair practices, therefore the copyright has come into existence. The information and communication technology has advanced so much, and with the advancements the digital information has become very easy to access, and at a very faster pace, and also at a lower cost. At the same time, there is also a possibility to manipulate this information, to alter this information and misuse this information. And on the other hand, apart from this, a lot of information is available in the public domain of the internet, and there are no restrictions on access for this information. So there are different challenges that we face in the digital environment. So to discuss this topic in detail, we have with us two experts from the profession. Professor Sekhar, he needs no introduction. He is professor in the Department of Library and Information Science of the University, and the other expert we have is Dr.P.Diwakar, CCMB, Hyderabad. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
To initiate the discussion, first I would like to ask Professor Chandrasekhar Rao garu, could you please explain our students about the concept and how copyright is important?
Sure, Madam Dr. Saroja. So let us see first what is the definition of a copyright. So according to Oxford English Dictionary, it is an exclusive right given by the law for a certain term period of years to an author, composer, etc., or his assignee to print, publish or sell copies of original work. So you can see this one from the definition. It could be understood that the intellectual capacity of the human brain has evolved into certain creative works like artistic works, literary works, dramatic works, then recording, cinematic films, etc. So all these films, all these creations, they are dependent on the capacity of the human. So copyright basically involves the skill and the judgment and also labor involved in creating the original work. So when we see the property, generally intellectual property, generally the copyright is one aspect of this one, to protect the rights of the authors. So in general, any property we can divide into two types. One is tangible property, another intangible property. Tangible property, for example, you have the house, you have the land, you have the gold, you have the cash. So that could be protected, that could be that you can keep it yourself, or you can sell it and you can use that for your livelihood. There is no problem, absolutely there is no problem at all. Or you can transfer to your other generations. So, but intangible property, it cannot be seen. So it is the ideas generated in your mind. So unless you record them, you write them, and then it will be, then you can protect them. That is what is called expression of the ideas. Unless you write them in a record form, in a physical form, you cannot. The copyright, as you told, that in the beginning, when the printing press was invented, the publisher used it to exploit the authors, because they want to, there is no limit for the number of years, the term for publication or printing of that one. To restrict that one, generally then the idea of controlling that came into the minds of the people, then the copyright has existed. So, for example, in the beginning, the kings were there. The poets whose literary works they used to devote to the kings, and they used to get some form of gifts or royalties or some sort of avenue for their livelihood. Now, in the democratic society, it is not there. Who will protect? So, if it is protected by the society in a way of copyright, then they can get some livelihood out of this their literary works, and they can use them. Then use that for their livelihood. This is the basic concept in the evolution of the copyright.
That means the copyright is meant to protect the economic rights and also as well as the moral rights of
And
the
also, yeah,
creator.
in addition to this one, the not only the economic right but also cultural avenues, cultural aspects of a country or a society. So if somebody is able to take up that one, then who will protect that one? So in India, there's cultural aspects are involved in this one. Those also to be protected if they are already in the written form. So all these aspects are involved in the copyright.
And Dr. Diwakar, so there are these concepts of IPR and copyright. Could you distinguish between these two terms?
Now, under IPR, intellectual property rights, many issues come under that. Copyright is one kind of intellectual property right. Similar to copyrights, we also have patents, trademarks, geographic indications, etc. So, as Professor Chandrasekhar has said, copyright is mainly about controlling the commercial exploitation of the intellectual work. So, the word copyright, if you take, it has two components: copy, right. So, in a sense, it is right to copy.
Yeah.
Okay, right to copy, right to commercially copy, to put it more precisely. So, in that sense, if you are not copying it for commercial purposes, perhaps you are not violating the copyright laws. So, since, for example, in science and technology, we always believe that we stand on the shoulders of our predecessors. Okay. So, if you implement strictly the copyright regime, the society will not progress. So, we need to have some kind of a liberalization even in the Copyright Act. So, for that purpose, we have what we call fair use clause in the copyright regime. So, under fair use of copyright, what happens is, if somebody is using a particular form of this intellectual property for personal good or for the development of the society, perhaps he or she is not violating the copyright norms. For example, a user comes to a library, and then as a librarian, you photocopy 4 or 5 pages and give it to the person. The person coming to you could be a faculty member, and a faculty member uses that photocopy for teaching his students. So, in that sense, librarian is not violating any Copyright Act. Even the faculty member who came to the library and made a copy of the document, for his private study or for distribution to his students, has not violated anything. So, such kind of acts come under fair use. So, under fair use in a way is a deterrent against infringement of copyright. So, infringement of copyright actually is when somebody makes money by selling the works of somebody else. So, infringement is more about the commercial exploitation of the copyrighted content rather than academic use.
Then how to recognize? There is a question generally our students may be more confused whether the work is under copyright or not.
Yes.
So, if you open in a book and the title page, if you see on the back of the title page, generally the C letter, small c letter is encircled. So, that shows the Copyright Act. So, then you can also see one thing, all rights reserved. There is sometimes the statement will be there. That means that work is already protected. In the case of phonogram, generally this instead of C, generally they use a small p. So, and there is a circle around it one. So that means that phonogram is already protected, that one, copyrighted, that one. This is the indication whether the particular work is already copyrighted or not.
Okay, and does this copyright is limited only to books or other kinds of materials also, like
there are
artist
many.
works?
No, because there are 3 or 4 kinds are there. One is the literary works. Literary works means generally is a poem, is a drama, or any verse, any verse. Then artistic works are there. So you are performing certain works like that. So then the maybe dramatic works may be there. Then architectural works, they are also protected. Then cinematographic works are there, paintings are there, photographs are there. All these are there. So to whom these works are the copyrights? To whom the copyright rests with these works? For example, literary works, the author is the person to whom the copyright subsists on him. Then the music composer is there. His composer is the person who has the copyright for that musical works. So the producer of a cinematic program, film, that is he is the owner of that one. Like that, the copyright works, the ownership or the copyright rests with those who produces it. For example, computer programs. So those who has created that particular software, that maybe is a programmer or a person who is involved in the creation of that one, that is the person with whom the copyright rests. So then how much, what is term of copyright? That is another question maybe generally we say. So generally for an author, so the 60 years after the death of the author, till that one the copyright exists, rests with that particular author.
I have a question. Sorry to interrupt you,
Okay.
sir. If a person is hired by some other person to write a particular, suppose Ambedkar University has hired someone to write a lesson for the university, then the copyright will go to the creator or to the employer?
Because it goes to the employer, because that person is hired by the university, hired by the institution. So he has taken some royalty indirectly. So generally the copyright is with that institution only. So for example, we engage some computer programmer to develop the software code. So the software code is created by those people, programmers, but they were paid by the university. So naturally, since they are getting that one, if independently they are doing that one, then the copyright is with them. Otherwise, if they are
May I
paid,
supplement what
Yes, please.
Professor Chandrasekhar has said?
Please.
In most of the cases, the author or the creator is the owner of the copyright. But in many other circumstances, the author can transfer the copyright to
Yes.
the publisher. If you look at the case of a book or a journal or even a cinema, for example, somebody gives the intellectual input, creates the intellectual content, and somebody makes it available publicly. So we call that agency person or the agency a publisher in case of a book or a journal. Many a time, in case of science and technology, for example, a lot of commercial publishers or the professional societies are involved in the publication activity. So generally what happens is the author transfers the copyright to the publisher. So at that time, the publisher will hold all the rights under the Copyright Act. So whatever provisions are there, ownership rights are there, the ownership actually gets transferred to the publisher rather than remaining with the author. In some cases, the author himself could be the publisher. So in that, it's when he is the publisher as well as the author, he is the sole owner of that property. But otherwise, if you look at this in the society today, most of the cases, the copyright lies with the publisher or the service provider rather than the creator of the content. In the process, what happens is the author sometimes may get some compensation. The publisher may give some kind of a monetary compensation to the author. So his obligation is fulfilled in that way. And also sometimes people do not write just for sake of money. and then in certain other areas, we don't do anything for gain. For example, you have rightly mentioned the Ambedkar Open University. Suppose I write a lesson for Ambedkar Open University, I don't write a lesson for monetary gain. For social good I write it, but university takes care of protecting the copyright, because to ensure that there is no infringement, to ensure that the content of the lesson is not mutilated by somebody else. So university takes care of that.
Yeah, and how you assign this, that is another question often people are interested to know about that one. So one is for every country there is an office, copyright office. The registrar of copyright is there. In India, for example, in New Delhi, we have the Register of Copyrights, and it is governed by a copyright board, which is advised by a chairman and 14 members. So another aspect, generally people are interested to know whether it should compulsorily registered with the office or not. So it need not be. If it is registered, it's okay. Even if it is not registered, if you say the statement, if you give the statement on the work on the back of the title, that is enough to protect your work against any infringement.
But if you register it with the Copyright Office, it's always advantageous in the sense that in case there is a litigation, if you want to fight your case in a court of law, unless it is registered with the Copyright Office, you cannot tap the door of a court, to gain back your rights. So if you think nobody will infringe your rights, you don't have to perhaps register your work. But if you think there is some commercial value to your work and somebody could infringe or somebody may exploit illegally your work, then it's always better that you go to the Copyright Office and register your work. It's just like will, So you are free to write a will and keep it in an envelope and give it to your children. Or you can also write a will and then register it. So, but it's always safe to register a will. Similarly, a copyrighted work also, there are some advantages in though it's not compulsory under the law. So it's always advantageous to go to the Register of Copyrights and then register it. It doesn't cost a lot of money to register a work. It's a simple procedure.
What are the rights that are given to the authors under copyright?
Yeah, generally copyright, as Dr. Diwakar has already explained, the right on his own copy. What is that right? Right means generally what if you want to sell it, if you want to translate it, if you want to make more copies, or if you want to assign to somebody else. So the any activity on the work, that is called the copyright. So you can sell that one for monetary purpose, or you can sell for the particular some royalty, or any aspect.
Perform also. Perform in the public, for the public.
Produce, or you can make a song or any other thing. You can produce a particular document on that one. All these activities are given right by to the owner of the particular original work.
And what is the period?
Yeah, as I told you, for the literary works, the author of the particular, the owner of the particular original piece, they are given 60 years after the death of the particular author.
And in case of joint authors, so how it is?
It's like a joint property. Suppose a house is owned by wife and husband, so both own it. Similarly, if there are two others, both of them will own it. But that 70 years comes into effect after the death of all the authors. Suppose first author dies early, then second author is still alive. After the death of the second author, then the period the clock actually starts after that. Since it's a joint property. So then I would like to supplement to this. Apart from copyright, we also have another concept, recent concept, what we may call copyleft. So copyleft is a different form of copyright. In copyright is very strict, but copyleft is very liberal. In copyleft, what happens is, suppose you create some content. Let us say I create a lesson for my students, okay, and I register it under copyleft. So then another faculty member, can take my lesson, can add value to that, make some modifications, and can improve upon that and correct. In case I have made some mistakes, he can correct those mistakes, okay, and then improve upon the language, and then add on to that, add something to that, okay, and then he will also have the rights to distribute it further. So under copyleft, what happens is a person who is using the original copyrighted content can modify it, make some kind of derivatives. He can make a derivative.
It is reuse.
Yeah, derivatives for reuse, and he should also make it available free of cost. Copyleft is always making content available non-commercially without any commercial rights. So I registered my work under copyleft. That is, I am giving away my content for public good. So you take my work and modify upon that, enhance that, add some value addition. Then you also give it, make it available to the society free of cost. Most of the software licenses that you see now today, for example, come under that. Nobody owns that copyright. That code is made available free of cost, and people can work on that code, improve upon that.
So what are the implications of this to digital libraries, digital library environment?
Yeah, it has a lot of implications. Previously, we used to do interlibrary activity very liberally. Okay, so suppose a scientist in another institution requires a particular piece of work, he or the librarian or the scientist telephones me or sends an email to me. I used to photocopy and send it by post. So when you send a photocopy under interlibrary loan, you are not violating any copyright law because you are sending only a photocopy. But in the digital environment, what happens is when you download a PDF and share the PDF with another institution, there are the digital rights management issues are involved. It depends on, it varies from situation to situation. If you have signed an agreement with the service provider that the only your users have rights for using that, you are not supposed to share it with users of another organization. So these are some of the implications in the
sorry
DRM.
to interrupt, I would like to add something. I read it somewhere in the articles that experiments are going on. I think already some software has evolved for giving for sending the digital information also on loan to other libraries, and after expiry of a particular term, that automatically it disappears.
Yeah.
So that
In
those
books it
things,
happens.
in case of e-books and
E-books it is there.
yeah.
That is, you loan an e-book to a customer, to a patron in your library. So previously what we used to do is we loan a book for 2 weeks. Okay, then after 2 weeks he needs to bring the book back to the library, get it renewed or return it. But now in a digital environment, what happens is you issue a digital book to a Kindle or some handheld device of a user. User comes to you with a device, with a reading device, and library server has the digital book on the server. You transfer that digital content to the user's device. So then what happens is, just as you issue the book for 15 days or whatever is the period, so person can read it for that period. After that date, it disappears from his device. He will not be able to, physically it will be there, but he will not be able to use that.
So far we have discussed the challenges of copyright issues in the digital environment, and also we have discussed briefly about the digital rights management issues and also the implications of the copyright provisions to the digital library environment, and we have also touched on the open access and plagiarism. Thank you very much, sir, for coming to the studios and explaining the concepts to our students. Thank you so much.
పాఠ్యాంశాలపై మీ సూచనలు సలహాలు సందేహాలు మాకు తెలియచేయండి. మీ సూచనలు సలహాలు సందేహాలు మాకు తెలియజేయవలసిన చిరునామా: డైరెక్టర్, ఆడియో విజువల్ ప్రొడక్షన్ అండ్ రీసెర్చ్ సెంటర్, డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ, ప్రొఫెసర్ జి రామరెడ్డి మార్గ్, రోడ్ నంబర్ 46, జూబ్లీ హిల్స్, హైదరాబాద్ 500033.